Good to see the stars already starting to react and just kind of reading their team in the moments in the game.
Here's Kawhi for three, and it rattles down for Leonard. 9 points for Kawhi. Paul George 0 for 4 from the floor, gets through the lane. Beautiful job splitting the defenders for his first bucket.
Kawhi Leonard had 17 in that first half in 20 minutes of play. Paul George rises on a contested shot, and that has to feel good. He did not look good in the first half, makes his first bucket here in this.
And look, he said talking about, bringing up accountability and keeping guys as loose as possible is always going to be something you do on any staff.
Three! Pat Beverly from Paul George. Paul George for two.
Leonard spins. They work it around to Batum. George gets past Porzingis into the paint. It goes for Paul George. LA has never been to a conference finals in 50 years as a franchise as Morris hits the mid-range jumper.
I'm curious to see how they're going to run pick and roll, what they're going to do to get Luka going.
Boy, Batum catch and shoot three. How important has he been this year to the Clippers?
But, I think the pressure for Luka is just more about growth. He's in his second year. He's already one of the top 5 players in this league. If you ask me, if you see Paul George.
Paul George picking up his third personal. 1-point Dallas lead. Here's George for three. Splash! Paul George really stepping up here in the second half.
His ability to knock down timely shots or make timely plays for whatever team he's on in the postseason.
He's 3 for 3 from three. A turnover there by Doncic, and then a foul by Porzingis.
But he's got that type of elevation on his jump shot where he's able to get it off over the length of defenders.
Here's Paul George. Had a really solid second half, right on cue, swishing that one home. 21 points for Paul George.
Great look. I love the drive by Tim Hardaway Jr., but great decision by Luka. Once you've got that double team, you've done your job.
More than just a couple threes in a game.
Porzingis 20 points, 9 rebounds, and shoots 37% from above the arc. Paul George barging his way down the lane and lays it in. The Clippers are on the board.
He knew that Zoo would come at him hard. They probably feel he'll be up higher tonight. Paul George again with the finish at the rim.
Shifty move by Paul George, but a tough shot made by Doncic.
That's why he's so hard to play, because he pump fakes to get you off his feet. He gets to the foul line. That time Paul George stayed down. Did a nice shot.
Just to spoon feed Zoo inside, deflected, recovered eventually. George in attack mode finds Kawhi, the corner three. George lobs it to Serge, makes the grab and lays it in. What a find, what a finish. Clippers lead 45-43. Led side by Zoo, the Clippers reshuffle. Lob to George, and he lays it in. 10 for George. Bricks have led by as many as 9.
You see the quick double team of Kawhi Leonard when they saw that Doncic had him by himself.
Oh, and Paul George flushes it in. Counted and a foul.
You see what happens here as Porzingis loses his footing, and even he has to laugh because all the guys on the sideline are giving him a lot of heat right now as Paul George finishes with the dunk.
Luka, by the way, 7 of 10 from the field. George, a mid-range, and knocks it down. 15 first half.
It certainly is that second shot opportunity. Sometimes the ball just winds up dropping into somebody's hands that you don't want having it.
The logo. Deflected, intercepted, ahead to George, behind the defense with the flush.
As the foul is called on Luka.
Now, the perfect setup, Zubac. It hasn't been that easy this game, but still, Luka's got 26. And going after another triple-double, Paul George. Yeah, it was a little bit of a force, but it worked. Leonard's got 34, but Luka's got 35. Hardaway Jr. 25, and Paul George on the elbow fills it up. So they just have to stay in range until they can get Kawhi back on the floor. And this guy needs to fill it up, and he does. Paul George with a triple. 55% from three. They got 7 more makes from beyond the arc. It was 6 more for them in game 1. It'll be Paul George. The overplay burned Josh Richardson.
Leonard up and down, plays back over to George. Kawhi for 3. It's good. 41 for Kawhi Leonard.
Opportunity for the Clips. There's the switch again. Paul George comes over, takes it away.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what it's about.
Terrence Mann, the lob, and a 4-point Dallas lead.
But Joel, you just talked about it. The Clippers actively lost their last 2 games on purpose to try to get the Dallas Mavericks. Nice drive by Paul George.
Shooting almost 70% from behind the arc in the series. Finally, the Clippers on the board.
On Boban at the start of the game because he knew what he was going to be doing to Zubac. That's just disrespectful.
There's Paul George in the paint with the basket, his second field goal against Dallas in game 2. 9 straight points here by the Clippers. Paul George makes it 11 in a row, and they got it down to single digits. Hardaway with the miss. Again, this is coming here, this run with Luka Doncic on the bench. Paul George's 3, good, and it's a 14-0 run by LA.
Clippers had a big run to close the first quarter after Dallas took a 19-point lead. Paul George, kick out pass, Pat Beverly after Luka closed out. Beverly drives and lays it in, 1-point game.
George with the clear. George in the paint, pull-up jumper is good from about 10 feet. That was sweet. Full move, but he missed the shot. Clippers on the drive. It's Paul George and LA back.
Jokic, when they go out the game, the offense can really kind of slip a little bit. So, these are opportunities for the Clippers to get going.
They have reserves in the entire NBA this year. And he's got championship experience in college, won 2 titles at Villanova. George takes it to the rim this time. And Paul George starting to heat up.
But you can't give up a wide open 3 off a made layup. And that's what just happened there.
Clippers come right back on the 3. Transition opportunity, 3-on-2 for the Clippers. George, great pass to Leonard for the dunk. Kawhi 7 of 7 from the floor.
I believe that is the formula for this Clippers team to get back in this series.
Clippers trying to avoid an 0-3 hole. Paul George again.
Okay.
Career playoff games. 1-point lead for the Clippers. More into the lane, and a tough shot goes on the follow-up. Clippers trying to get back in the series. Game 4 is Sunday. Game 5, if there is one, would be back in LA on Wednesday. Batum. The year they drafted Luka Doncic, he was the 33rd overall pick. 3rd of round 2. Doncic, the 3rd pick in round 1 by Atlanta, and then traded as Paul George. Hits the short jumper, giving him 29 points.
Morris. Everyone's fingerprints on the ball this trip down, and Paul George knocks down the 3.
2. Little drive, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 3.
Leonard going against Doncic, who does well to hold his ground. George in the paint where he's done most of his damage in this series and continues. He gets his first bucket tonight. Bear hug rebound for a moment, corralled by Paul George. The Clippers come out of the scrum with it. And now George back the other way, displays the handle, rises for 3, and knocks it down. What a sequence for Paul George. He has 8. George gets his defender in his back pocket, waltzes to the cup, and lays it in. Thought for a moment we'd see an and one. There was a whistle.
Doncic and Paul George here. Watch, he keeps the guy on his side, throws a little shoulder into him, gets hit, no call, but converts.
Batum has been off the charts incredible in this first half. George feeling good, knocks it down, and the Clippers are running on all cylinders. They lead by 13 under 9 to play in the half.
Obviously affecting Brunson, and then Paul George seems to have his stroke back.
Clippers trailed 4-0. This is their largest lead of the game. Paul George, a step away 3. It's good, and Dallas has some problem. Perhaps knock on wood, the Mavericks coming back down to earth after a record-setting 3 games. Leonard knocks down the 3. He is 6 for 6 tonight. He's out in front by 21. Jackson, another 3. And the same result, and that, my friends, puts the candles on the cake.
Reggie, after he shoots this one, not one hand down with the 3.
Jackson and Kawhi. Nice ball rotation, the ball movement huge. In the words of Ty Lue, 3 Morris, book it. Batum. New shot clock with which to work. And outside George for 3. Got it. Paul.
Have to drive him.
It's Kawhi Leonard, 0-3 so far. Paul George, 3. Good. That in game 4, 15 minutes, 12 points off the bench, had 6 rebounds. So they start him tonight. 3, George, got it again. It's Leonard right there. He has started 0-3. George, hot hand early on. Leonard inside on Polity. That time the shot is off. He's missed a couple in a row. In stride, George, outside. Kawhi tees one up.
It's on the court. But certainly you can see how his teammates just adore him, and he is playing great ball here in this game.
Leaning in Dallas. Good screen, Batum outside, the driving Leonard. Open, free to fire, 3, Jackson.
Beautiful move, but this veteran team of the Clippers more than capable of chipping away here, but what an end to that third quarter led by Luka Doncic.
Starting tonight, has played well, 13 points, 7 rebounds. It's a 10-2 Clipper run, making it now approaching 6 to play. Oh, it's Grizzly in there with a good move. 40% shooting for the Clippers inside, forcing the, oh, he got it to go! What a shot by George! Picked up by George. 7-point game. It's a 3. Morris got it. Big shot by Morris. And the rebound by George. 4-point game, 40 seconds to go. Leonard, the fake, the drive. Got it. What a play. Kawhi Leonard.
As the Mavericks open up in a zone, nice feed inside to Morris. Shot clock down to 8. Morris flips it out to George. Good open look for 3 for Paul George. Knocks it down.
Absolutely spectacular for Rick Carlisle and this Mavericks team.
Leonard to George. George to finish. And at both ends of the floor.
And a guy that Ty Lue has raved about all year long, his versatility and how he's so crucial to their success.
Paul George with the block and the save. Dwight Powell couldn't control it.
Hit a couple of hoops to start the second quarter.
I like the decision making by Brunson that time. Getting in the lane, beg your pardon, Paul George. Spectacular finish that time with the left hand.
Yeah. Both teams have cooled off after the hot starts. Pass inside to Leonard. Leonard leans in and banks it home. 14 points now for Kawhi Leonard.
And or get on the offensive board.
Jackson drives, goes right to the goal, lays it up and in.
Reggie Jackson, we've seen moving around pretty cleanly in this third quarter. He did get treatment during halftime, but as you can see, he's just fine now, Mike.
Thank you, Rachel.
Taking the double team by Luka and getting rid of the basketball, allowing Hardaway to be a playmaker.
7 straight points for Hardaway. Reggie Jackson hesitated and then connects. 20 points for Reggie Jackson.
I love the intensity. The Clippers defensively right now, they're getting after it.
Leonard drills the three-pointer.
Got to try to keep the ball out of his hands and hope he misses a few.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Back up to you, Mike.
Thank you, Rachel. Paul George drills the jumper
to create offense.
Brunson back up top. Kleba, 2 to shoot. Got to get it off. Floats it up. Shot blocked. Paul George. Excellent defensive play. George back to Kennard. Kennard uses his offhand. Throws it up and in. There's George. George brings it back out. Fires away. It's good. 3-pointer for Paul George. Well, Clippers, a number of elite defenders have played some terrific defense here with their season on the line. Paul George, it's good. George knocks it down. 19 points for George. Good ball denial for Batum. Doncic wanted it. 4 on the 24. Hardaway.
The follow, good try by Kleber, but it wouldn't go, and here come the Clippers. Jackson alley-oop to Batum for the slam.
Elimination game, you do what he did. He played his best players. You know, George, 46 minutes. Leonard, 42. You're going to play your best players.
Active early. Then a hot discussion of Porzingis not getting as many touches, not scoring much. He's got a couple of big buckets as Leonard starts off 3 for 3.
Talking about?
No, I mean, are we just going to like...
I'm glad to see you've let it go. Batum, corner 3. That's good. Nick Batum from downtown. Joy. George gets inside. Man, ball fake, fires, and hits. Terrence Mann off the bench, 3 for 3.
I'm Rachel Nichols here with Dallas coach Rick Carlisle. And Rick, high scoring first quarter. Luka with 19 points. What do you think about the way your team came out of the gate?
Scored the first bucket of this quarter. Just a little elbow isolation.
George kicks it out. Kennard wide open. Got the 3. Just over 5.5 to play here in the second. Largest lead has been 6. Clippers had that briefly. Paul George, a corner 3. That's good. 12 from the field. He's hit 3 of 4 from 3. 26 of their 49 points.
But Boban and Finney Smith, as George hits that, they shoots it. Nobody's hitting him. And he's using his athleticism to create a lot of second shot opportunities.
Mavericks have 10 offensive rebounds as George sneaks in. Tough matchup for Trey Burke. Finney Smith comes to help. Reggie Jackson connects from way outside. A 3. Paul George, nice feed inside to Batum. Beautiful pass.
As with the best record in the NBA. What a battle this series has been. Feed inside, stolen by George. For the Mavericks, this is their largest lead of the game.
After being down 8 at half.
Morris comes right back. Both ends of the floor. Morris, jumper, foul line. Shot too strong. Rebound, Paul George. Kennard drives. Kennard finishes with the offhand. Banks it home.
When you're being trapped.
Brunson, who's strong, doesn't have the height advantage, but he's strong guarding Kawhi Leonard. The double team. George steps into a 3. It's good.
Crossover from George. Tried to fake out Gobert. Now he's got him on an island. He'll take and make the 3. PG-13 from downtown.
At the rim to put a little more pressure on that Clippers defense.
Second foul called on Oni. Lob it up. And Zubac puts it down. Perfect setup. And Zubac has been a fact. Can't buy one. Zubac offensive rebound. George keeps on firing. And it finally goes down. Yes, sir.
But he went away from Kawhi in the double team and able to get all the way to the rim.
Clippers must get points here. They do. The swing inside from George to Leonard for the bucket.
Yeah, complete breakdown, weak side.
George triggers in. Leonard drives in, forced to give it up. Kennard from the corner, it doesn't go. Rebound kept alive by Rondo. George, one dribble and a J. Yes, sir! A 3!
You're right. Get to your strong hand, get an easy opportunity early. Try to feel good out of the gates as Kawhi gets his first to go. With that hard thrust, that burst into their offense. That's a good look at it right there, Mark.
Got an easy transition bucket, and Paul George on the sheet with his first field goal.
And I mean,
and you see it in the other guys.
Yeah, I mean that as the highest compliment. There's an edge to that group.
Everybody walking around with a puffy chest with the Suns right now as Paul George knocks down the 3-pointer. Oni trying to guard George. Kennard can shoot the 3 and does. At the buzzer, counted. That one a little bit strong, and Paul George back the other way. Deep post up by Cousins and an easy bucket to her.
Boy, Cousins' influence on
57-point playoff game last year against the Denver Nuggets in that shootout against Jamal. Inside, Zubac with a little jump hook. O'Neal right up into Paul George. Great defense. George makes tough shots, though, Doris.
Yeah, that's nicely done.
Steps through over to Leonard for 3. And Kawhi knocks that one home. Missed an easy one. Jackson has it going in the third quarter. Got it! And one! Reggie Jackson
And a big-time shot from Joe Ingles.
Ends a 9-0 run. Paul George lost his balance. Got it.
Wow.
Count it. PG. Paul George out top off the Batum screen. Gobert switches onto him. PG draws it and one. Count it. Clippers looking to take better care of the basketball. George on the drive, and he gets it to go with the left hand. With a little over a minute to go. George with in and out dribble, puts it up, whistle counted! PG on time! Incredibly competitive, capable of that extra gear. We've seen it tonight. George with a late three. Down to 6. Cross court to Morris, one more to George, and he slams it home. Royce O'Neal on defense. George steps back and drills it. This ball came right back to his arms. And Paul George knocks down the jumper. They clear out the side for Paul George, but Gobert loads up on that side of the floor. Beverly with a nice ball fake. Gets it to go off glass. Back out to George. 9 on the shot clock. Gets into the paint all the way to the cup for the layup.
He's playing with a level of intention, isn't he, Mark?
Doc Rivers saying at the time it was one of the toughest cuts that he ever had to make. And then was subsequently claimed by the Jazz and made himself a home in Utah. Paul George looking at home on that 3-ball. Lead is 5. George whips it to Jackson cross court. And Jackson also is on fire in this game early.
The quickness through which he's processing how guys are guarding him.
Paul George has Favors switch on to him, and George makes them pay.
Well, he's cooking tonight.
Clippers leading by 10. George for 3. Got it! Paul George having himself a night so far.
Lots of conversation about Giannis Antetokounmpo and the kinds of shots he was taking. He said, if my basketball instincts tell me to take lots of threes, I'm going to do it.
Oh, that jumper is splashy. Wet.
Went from shooting 25% to 36% in one season.
Yeah, he is a tireless worker. Great stuff, Lisa. Batum off the dime. Paul George scoring and finding his teammates. Went undrafted out of Baylor and played overseas in 3 different countries. Paul George maneuvering his way to the bucket. Back to George, guarded by Bogdanovich. Shot clock down to 5. George, a tough contested 3. Oh! Wet! The NBA app.
Boy, Ben Simmons was brilliant in the 4th period. Nice play by Paul George. Starting to come easy on the offensive end.
Mitchell with 28. George stops behind the 3-point line and knocks down another one. Good friends off the court as well. George with a crossover. Inside, off glass! Over the top of Gobert. Spin by Mitchell, elevates inside, left it short. Quickly up to Leonard. Euro step, got it.
Morris, pretty fake, he sold it, but he just can't make baskets. Knocked to the outside, controlled by George. To the corner, Leonard launches, it's a 3.
They feel confident against this group defensively.
Clippers blew the game wide open in the 4th quarter. George, good-looking delivery from Paul George. Rebound knocked over to Batum.
And the other thing that happens when you can keep bodies on bodies, as you see a nice find over the top there for Kawhi, then Quinn Snyder's going to want to talk about it.
Batum to the rim, missed it. Rebound poked to the outside, and George has got it. Jazz wanted a backcourt violation. Morris lines it up. Oh, he's feeling it.
They've got to get better defense. They have not defended well on this court thus far.
Paul George got him, a 3.
They didn't get that, but the fact that they got a defensive stop and an attack in transition creates a good look, and Paul George continues to knock down.
Grazes the rim. The rebound to George. Leonard on the floor for LA. George, big finish and the foul. 48-22 Clippers. Clarkson lobs it up. Gobert couldn't catch it cleanly. Morris comes out of the pack with it. Leonard. Pump fake. Kick. Shot clock winding down. George takes it hard to the hole. PG-13. Starting five remains in there. Morris gives it up. George counting for three.
You heard Rebecca talk about it. Quinn Snyder and his staff recognizing we've got to play earlier in the shot clock.
Paul George going to the rim. George defended by Ingles. A lot of history between these two. George turns the corner, floats it up, slam it down. It's Zubac.
Crowd a little quiet right now.
This was a celebration early. Paul George got a three.
That was a huge basket there.
24-9 extended run. George weaving through. Bank shot goes for PG-13.
I tell you what, Paul George is delivering.
He's got to be aggressive all night long.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Rebecca. Royce O'Neal, three to get Utah into the scoring column. PG-13 with a bomb for three. Donovan Mitchell is a scoring machine. 18-15 Jazz. Morris for the tie. Yes, sir. Clippers spread here. George, the handles. The fadeaway. Oh, yeah. Bogdanovich comes up short. George crosses, forces his way in for two.
Next level defender that the Clippers don't have. Should be more opportunities to attack.
Splitting defenders. PG-13 with a tough bucket, and he's got 10. The Clippers are 13 of 20. The Jazz are 12 of 17. Ingles knocked away. Favors couldn't catch it. 8-0 run for the Jazz. They lead at 51-44. George trying to take it at Gobert. Fade away. Oh, that is silky smooth from PG-13. And they've actually turned it over 8 times. Out of the timeout, Paul George. Splash. Turnovers piling up for Utah. George sizing up O'Neal. The drive inside for two and a foul. The strength of Paul George. And a chance at a three-point play.
Don't try to be a playmaker there. Not a good decision.
Beverly. Cookies there on Clarkson. George. Tip in, doesn't go. Rebound. George clears out space for two. Nobody shot more or made more this season. George. Fade. Money.
And that's the importance of leverage, folks.
And the Clippers can take the lead. George looking for an opening. Morris, ready, fire, got it, a three.
Pouring his will, I think, imposing his will, I should say, on this game offensively.
After the Mitchell miss, George sees an opening, finishes with the offhand. PG-13 with a sweet move to the rack. George operating on the outside with O'Neal watching him. Swing it. Morris fires, connects. Marcus Morris is piping hot from downtown. George once again, Bogdanovich. Step back three, splash for Paul George. He is feeling it tonight.
I mean, play at a high level, obviously. Maybe not to that extent, but man, I am anxious to see that one.
It was epic. Beverly lines up an open look. Got a three. Patrick Beverly from deep. 86-82. We approach 2 minutes to go in the third. Beverly. The drive, the teardrop, rims in for Patrick Beverly, who is providing a boost. Clippers up by 4 with possession. Isolation for George. George is fouled, and he's got it! Wow. Royce O'Neal put the hand out there. And the harm.
And all the rhetoric and the conversation and the slights of Paul George because of last year, this guy has stepped up and stepped up in a big way for the Clippers. Free throws just as good as well.
Ingles, trigger man, gets it in. Mitchell, and it knocked away by George, out of bounds.
That was rare the other night. Donovan Mitchell driving or the Jazz taking a 2-point shot. 67% of their shots were from three.
Terrence Mann connects on a three. Conley stolen by George. George on the drive, gets inside, muscles his way in. And
he did that well in the third quarter of the last game.
George has Conley on a big height advantage, although Conley, as Mann gets a three. Terrence Mann, 2 for 2 from downtown to start. O'Neal calling for it. Nice entry pass, but misses the layup. And George comes the other way. Paul George drives and gets it off the glass. A 4-point early Clipper lead. In Game 5, 35 of their first 45 field goal attempts were threes. Here's Terrence Mann, the hesitation, and throws it up and in. Terrence Mann, 12 points here in the opening period. Batum to George, George to Morris, three-pointer. Got it. But we've got two excellent young coaches in this series as Paul George steps back, knocks down the three. Well, they lived and died by the three in Game 5. That incredible first half, but a brutal second half. George drives on Ingles, steps back, two-pointer. Got it. You know what comes Clarkson, Tyronn Lue saying one of the guys they can't let go off is Jordan Clarkson. He is capable of exploding. Bad pass that time from Conley. Rondo throws it ahead. Batum. Alley-oop to Mann.
Clarkson was traded to the Cavaliers when Ty was coaching there. The relationship evolved. Jordan says it's Ty who taught him all the routines he needed, how things are different in the playoffs. Ty, of course, may be regretting a little bit of that right now, but
we're going to have to start calling him Donovan Mitchell range. He's hit a lot of long ones. Bad pass and stolen by Gobert, who turns it right back over. And Paul George, an easy bucket.
And he said that just cannot keep happening. He also told me they went over some new defensive wrinkles for when Clarkson and Donovan are on the floor together.
No, it's not. It's really actually very easy. Look at the shot clock, and you see it's the foul occurred at 20 as Reggie Jackson with a beautiful scoop.
Second half we attacked. They helped. T-Man got a lot of corner threes, just like we've been game planning for.
We'll see if you guys can close it out here tonight. Thank you so much, Ty.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Mike.
All right. Paul George, a three-pointer. That's good. 21 for George. Clippers by 3. George on the drive against O'Neal. Batum for 3. Got it! George guarded by Clarkson. Rises up high. Arcing shot is good. 23 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists for Paul George. Yep. Paul George with Mitchell on him. Gobert lurking. Step back, two-pointer. It's good. George the drive. Gets inside on Conley. Conley tried to take it away. Throws it up and in. And the chance of beat LA started when the Clippers came out for their opening warm-ups. Paul George gets inside on the finish.
Clippers are doing and have done. He's more active, more athletic, more nimble. A second shot and then a tip out already.
Paul George drills the jumper. While the Clippers on that quick turnaround after an emotional and tough series against Utah from Friday night to Sunday afternoon as Paul George drills that one. Booker to Crowder. Good ball movement here. Ball thrown away by Moore. A lot of contact there. 4 on the 24. Paul George from long distance.
Oh, he's a big-time talent. I mean, that's not breaking news.
So he wasn't telling me the truth, is what you're saying.
No, we can't. You can't tell the truth as a coach.
Ball pumped away by George, picked up by Rondo. It's crashing to the floor, but Jackson, impressive. Bridges, George got a piece of it, blocked the shot. Here comes
by to the defenseman.
Batum and George play catch. George sets and fires. Paul George from downtown. 17 first half points for Paul George. This is the largest lead by either team. Terrence Mann connects.
Devin Booker, he legendary. Put a tattoo of it on his body, and he is marching towards those orders.
George trying to draw some contact. Tough shot, knocks it down. Phoenix is shooting 63% for the game. Paul George starting to feel it. Nails another three. That's his fourth three-pointer. Zubac sets the screen. George wide open, drills another three. 25 points for Paul George.
He's got a post game.
Post game, mid-range game. Excellent free throw shooter. Reggie Jackson answers with another three. Game 2 on ESPN Tuesday night, 9 Eastern time. George to Zubac. Zubac flips it up and in. Paul George with an answer. He's the first Sun to score in a while besides Booker, who had 16 consecutive points for his team. George, step back, three-pointer. Oh, Paul George does it again, and we're tied at 93.
He's got 36 tonight in his first conference final. Rondo a three-pointer. Rajon Rondo with a huge three right now for the Clippers.
Get rid of the basketball and then live with the results off of wide open looks.
And again, you're always trying to prioritize as the Clippers' downside.
Rondo to George. George to drive. Batum, good look for three. It's good. Nick Batum from downtown. It's a five.
Suns, by the way, only 3 of their 16 field goal attempts are from 3. Paul George this time gets down low. George stops. This time connects. Spots tip, misses, gets the rebound, and gives them a new possession. George to Jackson. Jackson fake, sidestep three. It's good.
Bryce.
7 to shoot. George back up top to Mann. Fakes a pass, fires a three, and it's good. Dario Saric with 7 points, couple of assists, and 6 minutes off the bench. A huge impact as Paul George gets inside. His three, despite the fact that Devin Booker has 2 for 9 from the field and 5 turnovers. 2 of those 2 offensive fouls. George drives in hard. Layup is good. Beverly got the start, as did Zubac, as Tyronn Lue, who just joining us, changed up the starting lineup from game 1. Paul George creates some space and knocks it down. Side out, I think that's the right call now. George throws it inside, and Zubac with the finish.
When he's on the floor, is versatile enough to defend multiple actions.
George to Morris. Morris likes that corner and nails the three-pointer. Rondo back in for Beverly. George on the drive, gets inside. Layup is good. Paul George now with 14. Rondo. Kennard. Moore is on George. A little fake, drops it. Paul George now with 16. Hooker now defending George. It's right up into him. George drives, kicks it out. Beverly fakes, fires. Patrick Beverly with a three-pointer.
Coming out of the timeout, an adjustment, high screen and roll. Bridges coming off the down screen of base.
Just his second field goal. George looks to answer. That's good. Paul George drills his first three-pointer of the night. 22 points, 14 rebounds. 14 on the shot clock. George, Zubac dribbles. His little jump hook is good. Shot clock at 6. Payne gets inside. Layup blocked by Zubac. George comes the other way. Here comes Paul George. Gets inside. Layup. He banks it home. And the Clippers take the lead. Timeout, Phoenix.
And they took Ayton off the floor to downsize along with the Clippers. There'll be no shot blocking at the rim.
George, jumper. Got it. Paul George drills another. Back-to-back huge buckets.
Just look at the havoc that Beverly putting forth, rebounding, defending, knocking down shots.
Paul George knocks down the shot. Wanted his teammate Chris Paul to be back. Payne had 29 points in game 2. George turns, shoots, and scores. Payne on the drive, high off the glass, too strong. Paul George the rebound. Terrence Mann slips by and lays it up and in.
Clippers only shoot 33% and 3 for 16 from 3.
And they're still with the lead as Paul George gets that one to fall. 3 minutes remaining. Second period. Zubac on the slam. George drives into traffic, pulls up, shot's good. And the Clippers regain the lead. Back-to-back buckets for Paul George. Phoenix has a foul to give. George drives, goes inside for the slam with 2.9 remaining.
Defensively, mistake made by Ayton, hugging Zubac at the three-point line. Paul George turns the corner, punishes the smaller defenders, protecting the rim for the Phoenix Suns.
To go with how he started in this series, in the first 2 games, 22 of 29. That shot's good from Paul George. Boy, the Clippers love to see him get hot. That's 6 turnovers now for Phoenix. Jackson, the runner along the baseline, is good. Flex it up and in. 11 points for Reggie Jackson.
High level defending and elite offensive weapon.
He did it in game 2 as well. Paul George drives inside, up and under, banks it home. Cam Johnson comes in for Phoenix.
I tried to. It was like one of your patented back downs where you were met at the wall.
Zubac, oh, with authority. His watch right now, 4 fouls.
And without Payne, will he be the backup point guard to Paul?
Paul George nails the three-pointer. About a second difference, shot clock and game clock. Kennard for 3. It's good. Luke Kennard, long distance. Paul George gets it off in time. Oh, he banks it in. It's good. Paul George at the buzzer. .1 on the inbound from half court.
Clearly gets it off, too.
No doubt about it. We head to the 4th quarter. Clippers up by 11. Zubac's calling for it. He's got Booker on him. Jackson, a three-pointer. It's good. Reggie Jackson from downtown. And the lead back up to 11. Booker on George. Picks it back out. Jackson, three-pointer, puts it in. Reggie Jackson, a rainbow, and the lead back up to 13. Got 10 points here in the 4th quarter. Paul turns it over. Terrence Mann, Beverly for 3. Bang!
Make the great pass to Cam Johnson. That time he got the mid-range jumper.
This is the largest lead of the series by either team so far through the first 3+ games. As George knocks it down. Starting to get sick of each other. Shot clock at 7.
I hear that. I'm sick of you, Mike.
George drives and finishes. Paul George with his 2nd field goal. Morris doing a good job denying DeAndre Ayton. Bad pass from Booker. Beverly ahead to George. George sidestep, gets inside, and a hard foul. George gets up and bumps into Booker, and then a little forearm shove. You can see this happening as the 1st quarter evolved.
And a technical foul on Paul George.
Gave that little shove.
Monty Williams always talks about poise. That's not even a hard foul. That's just a contested layup. Booker doesn't retaliate, and he gets a 3-point.
6% from the field. They have not scored now in 6 minutes. George struggling with his dribble. Fires away and knocks up. That figures that's the one that goes in.
Basketball back.
And I wonder if in the second half, Rondo, who has not played here in the first half, gets a look to try to give them some more energy.
Not use it as an excuse for a poor shooting game.
Did you ever play with a mask?
No. I never went in the paint.
Again, Booker, as Jeff mentioned, with those 3 fouls. Beverly in the corner. Beverly on the drive, gets inside, banks it home.
And this was the unit in the third quarter the other night that played well.
George inside, Zubac gathers and finishes. Now 5 of 14 from the field. That's his first shot without the mask. George looking to draw a foul, drills it. And this building has come alive. The lead is cut to 6. Kawhi Leonard going crazy. Jackson launches a 3. It's good! Reggie Jackson from downtown. Booker guarding George. Paul George now with 18 points. Paul George and Marcus Morris. Craig seeing his first minutes of the night defensively here for Phoenix. George throws it inside. Man, lays it up and in. Patrick Beverly, who loves and embraces his role as a villain on the road. Reggie Jackson knocks down the opening on go. Well, Paul and Booker, who have struggled shooting the past couple of games, this is their first shots. Beverly drives and finishes. Tough shot for Beverly.
Pounded my head like they did.
Bridges gets inside, pass deflected, another steal. Man to George. George to finish. Shots good and one.
Arena until you get on the court, and the Clippers are being about it right now. The way they are attacking, the way they're playing with pace, defending, scoring in transition. This is an outstanding start for the Clips.
Great defense
to the cross screen and give him a post-up touch. He's gotten quality looks on the post-up against Sarge.
Sarge having a tough time handling Cousins' size. And DeMarcus Cousins trusts in his ability to shoot. And he says he's a terrific defender as well. Cousins once again. DeMarcus Cousins, 10 points already. Cameron Payne blocked by Beverly. Kennard outlet to George. Nader in pursuit. A bump. Boy, it looked like George may have bumped and pushed off Nader. He's upset no call was made. On the bench right now. George off the dribble, drives, gets inside. Nice left-handed flip off the glass. And to Morris.
Terrence Mann plays with great tenacity.
Paul George at Bridges. Knocks it down. George now with 9 points. The lead for the Clippers back up to 6.
Mike, can you imagine Jeff staying at your house for 7 weeks, though?
I think it'd be quite pleasant. Paul George gets inside and banks it home.
Enough pace. Are you pushing as hard now as you did to start the game? I think right now the answer is no.
George squeezes inside, gets it off the glass. That's a gorgeous move from Paul George. Count it and the foul. The Suns thought he traveled.
It was an awkward ending, but when he picked it up, well, he did land back with that left foot, so I don't know, but it's a terrific finish by Paul George.
What do you mean you don't know? Come back to me.
Paul George makes his move behind the back, pulls up jumper. It's good. Paul George now at 18. Does not get the roll.
And those were cash in the first 4 games.
George on the pull-up, nails a 3. Paul George answers. Booker, one of the premier free throw shooters in the game, 93% in the series. George connects again. Paul George from downtown. George to Beverly. Beverly's going to try a three-pointer. Patrick Beverly from downtown.
How will they defend it, and whose responsibility will it be?
And they have such size on the floor. Torrey Craig, who didn't play last game, playing tonight as...
It's a good question. Clippers up by 8, final minute, third quarter. George three-pointer, puts it in. Paul George exploding here in the third period. These 2 games he's played is 7 of 14 here tonight. George drives past Craig, goes inside, lays it up and in. And tip misses as well. And George the rebound. George drives, stops, leans in, bank shot is good. Beverly back into the hands of George. Jackson long three, puts it in. Reggie Jackson.
Significance of that hit.
And to Rachel George against Mikal Bridges, brings it back out. George over Bridges, another. Paul George, and this is the largest lead of the night. Chris Paul, well defended again by Beverly. He has just been spectacular defensively. George the drive and the finish. George drives on Booker. His shot bounces around. Nice soft touch. George against Booker. Spins. Nice feed inside. Nick Batum, who just entered the game, banks it home. Now Terrence Mann. Good look. That won't go. Batum keeps it alive and a new 14 on the shot clock. This time George inside. Banks it home.
Let's go for the knockout punch right now, offensively and defensively.
There's two other teams that tried to do that here in these playoffs and were unsuccessful as Paul George knocks it in. 5 on the 24. Now Paul's on him. George looks, drives, double team, kicks it out. Morris for three. That's good as the shot clock expires.
And that play is made because of the pace in which Devin Booker comes off of that screen. You can't catch up and get back into the picture.
Paul George, pull-up jumper, got it.
And Chris Paul is rolling right now.
Still 5.5 remaining. Paul George, jump shot is good.